Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Do Nothing Project. Good to see everybody checking in over here. Hey, John, Brenda, Jeff, Hillary. Brooke, I hear it's your birthday. Happy birthday. Gabrielle. Lauren, good to see you. PJ, Melissa. So if you've never been here before, important to keep your expectations extremely low. We just sit in the middle of the day. You might hear in the background, there's a character here with me who you'll meet in a second. So we just take this time to hang out together in community. We do a little meditation sit, kind of explore a different theme, pretty much keeping it simple. And might answer a few questions and people share reports on the side, and that's it. So we'll be out of here in 35 or 40 minutes. The sit itself is about 25 minutes. Okay, so we got a special guest. Hold on. Let's have my hand. Oh, are you ready? Okay.
So I'll just, you said.
So, guest of honor. This is my son, Eden. Say hi, buddy. He's like, what's going on? I have no idea. So Eden is going to be the inspiration for our practice today. I was thinking of what to do. Thinking we'll do one on, this practice is going to be called the baby meditation. So what that means is, well, actually it's all about exploring beginner mind. So exploring what it's like to kind of not have any preconceptions about things, which a theme we've explored a bunch on this, on our little group meditation hangout. So maybe the best way to explain it is with a story. It's a story that I really love that this psychedelic philosopher named Terence McKenna used to tell. I don't know if any of you guys know Terence McKenna, but he was sort of a luminary in the alternate consciousness world, super hilarious and entertaining thinker and massive mushroom taker who was kind of in the whole psychedelic underground. But he's a wonderful guy. He's dead now, but he had very smart, really interested in language and consciousness, which you get both from meditation and from intelligent psychedelic use, you could say. Anyway, he used to tell this story of the hummingbird, of a baby in his crib and the hummingbird. So the baby, like little Eden here, is just hanging out in his crib or her crib, and and he's just looking up maybe at the mobile or whatever, and the window's open in his room, and suddenly in flows this hummingbird. Right, buddy? You haven't seen a hummingbird yet. So the hummingbird it's just floating above his bed, this iridescent wonder, right, buddy? It's floating above his bed, and he's thinking, and he's just looking up at this thing. And of course, he has no thoughts. He's a baby, but he just sees the wonder and strangeness. See, he's doing it of this hummingbird, which he has no category for this in his mind. And then in that moment, Dad comes into the room, or Mom comes into the room, and goes, "Hummingbird." And the way Terence described this, which I really love, is he says in that moment, it's as though someone placed a tile on the inside of the world over top of that hummingbird. So instead of seeing the hummingbird, we now partly see the idea of hummingbird, the concept of hummingbirds. Of course, we still see it, but there's this concept layer over top of it. And the way McKenna talked about it is that sort of word by word, language by language, we kind of like pave the inside of our world with these concepts and these ideas. And that, I mean, this is very functional. We do this as a way so we can kind of move through the world with these prevents us from connecting to the bare experience of something. We think we know what something is, so that's what that is. But we forget to connect to the real bare experience of what the thing is in the moment. And you could say that that's very much what this little dude is all about right now. He hasn't got any concepts about the world. He's just got this kind of open wonder and various other emotions, and everything is sort of like experienced for him in this new way. So I think this is going to be the theme we're going to try to explore in this practice. So you're going to kind of combine the best of being an adult and being a baby. The adult part of you is the part that's regulated, that can actually keep a straight spine, that can choose to set an intention and do the practice. He's a natural meditator, but not a very disciplined one. And then but the baby part of you is, we're going to try to do a practice where you're going to almost pretend that you don't know what anything is. You don't know what these sounds are that you're hearing, these sensations are that you're feeling. From your perspective, it's just sensation. It's just energy, it's vibrations. And what would it be like to sit inside a space of a kind of availability and humility and openness like that? And that's kind of something that does emerge through time in a practice, especially in an insight practice. And so this guy's going to be our inspiration. So hopefully that makes sense. I'll introduce you to my wife if you haven't met her yet. She's going to take a little lead now when we do this. This is Sarah.
Hi, everyone.
This is everybody. And this is Eden. Okay, so we did a little explaining. Oh, I love you, buddy.
All right. We're going to go play now.
Okay, so baby meditation. I'll just put these headphones on so I have a better sound for you guys. Okay, so we'll do a 25-minute sit. I don't have my bell, but I have this rattle, so it's suitable. Hold on 1 second. Sweetie, is it possible to close that door?
Yeah.
Thank you.
It seems like I have to change him, but I'll try to hold off.
Okay. Okay, so 25 minutes, so we'll finish at about 12:35, and let's get going. Okay, so as always with this, with the Do Nothing Project, if you have your own practice you like to do, some tried and true meditation, of course, that's completely fine. You're your own teachers. I'll just offer some prompts, and it's kind of more invitational than top down, hopefully. And I like to start with as I breathe in, kind of stretch up the spine. You want to be sitting in a position that's comfortable, but also where you're alert. If you're lying down, it's kind of easy to fall asleep, although some people can do it. Generally, it means having some back support. So as you breathe in, you stretch up the spine, take in some oxygen, find some alertness. And then the out breath, it's kind of the downward motion. So a bit of the parasympathetic response there as you breathe out. So you can lengthen the out breaths a little bit here at the start. And just imagine as you do, you're kind of breathing out any tension. And you're softening the worry lines of the forehead, the cheeks, the jaws. Ditto, breathing out. See if you can soften the shoulders. The hands, sometimes the hands are kind of gripping. Let the hands be soft and loose on your lap or on your knees. And even the belly. Belly can be soft. Don't try to hold it in. And attitude is everything in meditation. And so right at the top here, I recommend just kind of connecting to this, what we talk about as the attitude of equanimity, which is also a skill. That just means, can you have this sort of mature, open stance to things being welcomed, that things don't need to be perfect. So you're not going to get uptight about sounds in the room or the fact that you might have lots of thoughts right now or your body's uncomfortable. You don't want to, the idea is not to brace against any of those things, but to let it all be there. And that stance of letting everything be there is actually the ground of practice. Just being okay with what's here in the moment. So at this point, you can either just stay in this sort of a stance where you're just not really doing anything, just sort of enjoying your own company, enjoying the company of this virtual community, just be.
Or if you like, you can have that framework and also lightly pay attention to some home base, something simple, nothing dramatic, just something to give you a bit of structure. So it might be the sensation of the breath or sounds or a point in the body or a mantra. It could be really anything. But the thing we're doing that's unique today is we're going to explore this idea of a true beginner's mind. That inside, even though on the outside you're this adult and your back is straight and we're going through this activity, on the inside it's like you're literally just born and you don't know what these sounds are you're hearing, what the things are you're feeling or experiencing. The idea is to see if you can get underneath your names and the stories and your ideas around stuff and just connect to the bare sensation of it, as though you don't know what the next moment will bring, as though you don't know what anything is. So just try this and see how it goes. And so I don't mean getting into a whole war with yourself around, I got to pretend I don't know what this is, but I do know what this is, but I can't know what it is, but I do know what this is. It's like just see if you can, if that you're inside something like that, kind of let that go. It's more like you're just totally available to sensations, to sounds, to whatever's happening. And there's a sense in which you don't have any expectation about what even 1 second from now will look like, 1 moment from now. And the thing itself, you're just trying to feel it as fully as possible and not feed any images or ideas or inner talk that comes up about it. Just stay on the sensation level, meaning the feeling of the breath or the point in the body or the sound of your own mantra or the sound of the fridge or the birds or whatever's going on in your experience. It's sort of this delicate thing we're playing with here. And just so play around what that means for you and what it means to sit here with a kind of baby's total availability. And so if you notice yourself getting distracted, just kind of come back either to this open orientation or to a home base. We think about a baby doesn't know much about what's good or what's bad yet. With sounds, sensations. So see if we can get below the story of them, the so this is good, this is bad, to just the sensation itself. Good. So adult on the outside, mature, poised, this composure, this sort of centered acceptance of things, not needing things to be different, okay with the incredible simplicity of what we're doing, and also with this kind of infant's of it, and maybe even that sense of delight that can be there or wonder. Just sitting here being alive. So just letting things settle. You can see if you can kind of get into the quiet, get into the stillness, sort of see if you can enjoy it. If there's any of that there, it's like everything starts to slow down inside a bit. If it doesn't slow down, that's okay too. And have a sense of humor about that, and just notice the let all the moving stuff be a massage as it pings in, and you don't even know what it is. You're just letting it massage you. The sounds, the sensations, even the thoughts. Yeah, good. So, last few minutes, we'll do a loving kindness practice or a positivity practice. It takes different forms, but let's see. I'm doing now. Well, right now I can hear my son crying, so I'm going to do a compassion practice. So, just that just means thinking about somebody in your life who's having a hard time, or somebody out in the world. God, there's lots of them right now. Maybe it's caregiver, a frontline worker, who knows what, and just sending out this, this sort of intention to for them to be safe and happy and healthy. So it's sort of like sending out some caring. The idea is that you just want to connect to your own intention for this person to be happy. Yeah. to this person's suffering to end. So maybe it looks like just picturing somebody, and then you say a phrase to yourself like, may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be safe. And compassion is this active thing. So you're not just empathizing with the person, you're actively trying to override that raw empathy with a more active kind of wanting the best for someone. So it's sort of like, you're like, yeah, may you be well. And may you be safe, may you be healthy. And notice the activeness of it, the activity of this. It's like you're being present and you're actively connecting to this intention to want the best for them. And what does that look like for you? It might look like warmth, when you're sending this warm, caring concern. It might look more like presence. You're just patient and there. You've got the solidness, It doesn't have to be scripted in terms of the effect. It's more just that, intention to want the best for them, sending them compassion. You're sort of exercising that muscle, and you can send it out to other people as well, people you don't know, strangers. If it helps to have a phrase, you can use a phrase. Yeah, it'll always be this way. And that's the meditation. A question from Mandy. What's the difference between being with and being okay with something? Are those your words? I can't seem to do either right now. I'm out of resources to deal with everyone and everything. I'm sorry you feel that way. I know that feeling too. You're just tapped out. You got nothing in the tank. Well, I mean, so this is actually a good practice for that. Um, the essence of a mindfulness or of all the practice we do here is just this letting yourself be with what you're feeling. So if you're feeling out of resources, then you're just letting yourself be with that feeling of being out of resources. You're letting yourself be with, so this is different than being okay with your life. It's saying in this moment, I'm going to let myself feel what's here. I'm going to let myself feel what I feel. And if I feel completely out of juice, exhausted and tired and, depressed, then I'm going to let myself have that feeling because that's what's here. If I feel calm, then I'm going to let myself have that feeling because that's what here. So this is the equanimity. And that's when I use the language of being okay, that's what I mean. I mean, letting yourself, being okay with the fact that this is here, that this is what's present for you. And that allows us to, because the reason is when we're in a place, especially a place that's challenging, we don't like being in that place. So we're interested, and now we have this judgment about our own exhaustion, and we're kind of fighting against it. Or so we're in this whole secondary battle that makes the initial exhaustion or whatever it is challenge that much worse. So the whole idea of that is to short circuit that whole tendency which every human has, and instead of trying to be in a battle with yourself around your hard feelings, you just accept that you've got hard feelings, and that can actually make it much more manageable. And it's a very compassionate thing to do too. So you can do that with this. That's the equanimity of just sort of accepting that it's there. And then if you're having a really hard time, having some added compassion to it, which just means trying to connect to like understanding that you're having a hard time, seeing that and being like, may you feel better, having that feeling of wanting the best for yourself. You try that too. And there are practices to aim for. I mean, they're kind of like ideals, because the reality is sometimes that's really need to be distracted, and that's okay. So I often talk about this basic strategies of focusing towards and focusing away. Focusing towards is sort of opening to something, letting it be there. You can actually go into it, exploring the edges of it. You always want to let something be there, but sometimes in a practice we don't really want to be working with it directly. We just focus on something else that feels more manageable. So that's why we might focus on the breath or a slow movement practice. It's what you're doing anyway. If you're having a hard time and you decide to go for a walk in nature, you're kind of trying to not think about your problems, focusing on the walking of being in nature or the sights and sounds. So hopefully that's some context. I'm sorry you're having a hard time. Jeff's got a question about overriding. Yeah, overriding is a really important idea. Something no teacher ever really described it to me like that. It was something I just noticed in my experience, that I might be feeling really tired, for example, as we all do. And then, but I'd be like, nope, no time for tiredness now. And I'd override it with this intense thing that I need to do. And we got to do that in life. But I realized that I was doing it all the time. I was constantly, my body would give me a signal about something it needed, like it needed rest or it needed peace or it needed something. But my mind had a different idea. Like, now I got a different agenda. I'm going to do this. And part of practice is realizing like, whoa, how disrespectful I've been my whole life to my body and the things it needs. And not just my body, but overriding the signals from your environment. You're hanging out with somebody and what they need is for you to just be present with them. But and that's kind of what the vibe they're sending out, but you're just going to override that with your idea about what you need to do in the moment. So we're constantly, it's basically, when I say override, I mean, like, instead of just being present to the situation of yourself or the situation out in the external world, you kind of overlay it with your own agenda and then make that be the thing that matters, instead of just getting quiet for a minute and seeing what really needs to happen here. That's kind of what I mean. Very general. Okay, so Magnus is saying, I don't understand the do nothing mindset. Hi, Jeff. I don't understand the do nothing mindset. Should I just sit and think and get lost in thoughts, or try to not think? Yeah, great question. So there's different degrees of doing nothing. A true doing nothing practice, an absolutely true doing nothing practice would be to sit and have absolutely no agenda and not try to control your experience in any way whatsoever. You just let things happen. If that means you end up in a big thinking storm, then that's truly doing nothing. That's what caught you. That's the default. So, and now some people, and that's probably, I would say that's pretty contraindicated for most people. I wouldn't say that's a very constructive practice for most people. However, some people, when they sit and do absolutely nothing, find that they just give themselves permission to do nothing. And there is a bunch of thinking, but it kind of plays itself out. And after that, they end up in this space of sort of just being, and it feels really nice. So for me, what I usually do is a kind of slightly scaled back do nothing practice. I say do nothing, but have a slight agenda. The agenda is to not just feed your neurotic thinking. The agenda is instead to just sit and try to appreciate the feeling of just being. And if just sitting and appreciating the feeling of being is enough, then you can do that. But if there's still tons of thoughts, then use a home base. Have something that you're paying attention to that's not your neurotic thinking, and just get stuck in neurotic thoughts, go back to the thing, maybe the breath, and stay with that for a bit. Then you get pulled up again, you come back, and that's it. And just not make a big deal of any of it. A lot of the do nothing is sort of an attitude of not making a big deal of things, of like not needing to make it complicated. But you got to kind of work with where you're at. So you meet yourself. Okay, where am I at right now? If I got tons of thinking and I just do this true do nothing practice, if it just leads to more thinking, then maybe not the most useful. So I usually give those prompts actually in the meditation. I don't actually lead a pure do nothing practice. I usually lead a kind of hybrid practice that gives people some options. So report from Joseph. Thanks, Jeff. Between my baby mind and my adult mind, somehow I could identify my worrying more clearly and return to my home base a little quicker. Great. Who knows how it works? Awesome. I love it. So nice. People saying that they've been enjoying the calm stuff. Yeah, I'm going to do more for Calm. I'm actually just in a conversation with those guys right now. So definitely going to happen more with them, and more with 10% Happier too. So Melissa's saying, read Beginner's Mind. Eden doesn't have much language, but he does experience what's familiar and what's new. So it helped me notice car drove by, familiar, song playing in the background, new. Oh yeah, totally. Because baby's got a good novelty sense. I realized I said something incorrect in the meditation. I was like, something about baby not having any preferences. Of course, that's totally wrong. If you watch a baby, they know what they like and they don't like. I kind of meant that below the language preferences for things, there's a kind of way of being in our direct experience with sensations. And so that's the kind of thing we were cultivating a little bit. But after I said that, I was like, my baby has a lot of preferences. And by the way, people can share. I like when people share reports, and you can even share insights about. So if someone has a question, other people can post their response to it, like what they do. In fact, I much prefer that. I'm happy to try to answer a little bit around what I do, but I like this. I like the idea of this being a forum where people can learn from each other. And often I'll have a response for how I work with something, but someone else works with it in a different way. And actually, that's a more relevant way for your situation. That's what I mean by the community as the teacher. That you start to get a better sense of that there's a lot of diversity in how our nervous systems respond. So pooling kind of insights is really great for that reason. So Mihu, I'm not trying to pronounce it, Mihu, Mihu. Sometimes I'm starting to drift off during meditation, and even though I'm noticing it's hard to shake it off and come back to being more aware. That's true. So that's a good insight. The way to work with that, who's really good at talking about this is a teacher named Kula Dasa. It was a book called The Mind Illuminated. And he talks a lot about subtle dullness, the subtle way in which you sort of get a bit drifty and zoned out. And we're still meditating, we're relaxed, but we're kind of in this sludgy space. And for him, the way he works with it, and that's what I do too, is he kind of sets an intention at the beginning to sort of notice when that's beginning to happen. So you might be noticing your breath for like 70% of your awareness, but you got maybe 30% is just sort of aware of awareness. This sort of metacognitive quality that you're kind of paying attention to what your state is. And as you start to drift into that place with being more more drifty, you kind of notice it, and then you reset your intention to stay clear and to be with the object. And the idea is that if you can notice it soon enough, it doesn't build up that murkiness, doesn't build up as much, and you can kind of stay on the clear side of it. Now, best to have not be making a big deal of it. It's totally normal that you get into that space, and it still doesn't mean it's not a bad meditation, because even going into a drifty place can be a really nice reset. It can be really comforting and relaxing. It can be what we need. So this is more if you're really interested in tips in his book around that, along the lines of what I said. So I'll just answer a couple more. But again, feel free to share here. And actually, I think the comments stay open even after I leave, so you can kind of look at them and make your own responses. Like, I won't end it. So Ted's saying, I like to sit and do nothing, and do so most mornings, but I find that most often go negative. I most often go negative. I'm trying to start with a new base with minimal guided meditations, mixed results, suggestions. Let's see if I understand this question right. Start with a new base. So I guess you're finding that when you sit and do nothing, you kind of, I'm assuming by going negative, you mean you kind of get into some negative thinking. And you're trying to start with a new base with minimal guided meditations. I don't know. I mean, I guess my suggestions are just experiment a little bit and see what you want. Ideally, what you want is a kind of go-to practice that you don't have to think about too much. So whether it's just a kind of do nothing practice, or it's a light pay attention to the breath practice, or it's a repeating in your head some simple mantra like I am, or it's a slow movement practice where you're maybe standing and doing a few sort of hand movements, something that kind of you don't have to think too much about. It sort of works for you in that it gets you settled. When I say a meditation works, what I mean is it's a place where you're building up concentration and clarity and equanimity, and it feels like you're just a little more present and a little more settled after you do it. So for that, you got to kind of experiment and see what works for you. Sometimes what works first thing in the morning is different than what works later in the day. I don't really like to do if I were to do a practice early in the morning, I like to do a more physical practice. I don't like to do it just sitting. It just doesn't, I got too much energy. I want to get going. So, I don't really know what the issue is with you. So you got to kind of look and see what's going on and try to create a slightly customized practice that fits with your situation. And there's going to be some experimentation with that. So I would just encourage you to think of it as this fun, interesting thing. Like, cool, I'm kind of learning how my mind and body work. I'm learning, even just the meditations on my website, those go through different practices. So you can use a guided practice as a framework to give you insights about what's working. And then you can just build your own out of that. I think I'll just do one more, and then I got to go. Oh yeah, Megan's saying she was looking outside and saw 4 hummingbirds fly by. Yeah. It was funny when I was doing the hand thing. He was looking up like it was a hummingbird. He had the whole baby wonder thing. So some thanks here on practice. I appreciate it. Thank you. Glad you guys are liking it. Yeah, it looks like Lauren's got she's put some good posts here for folks to look at further up somewhere. So Jason's asking, is it okay to move from one anchor to another? For instance, focusing on the rise of my belly, then moving to the hands and feeling the sensation of air in and out. Yeah, it is. What's most important is that you stick to your intention of what you want to do from the beginning. So at the beginning, if you decide you wanted to stay with one sensation and see how deep you can get into one sensation, that's worth exploring. You can do that and just make that intention at the beginning and then try to stay with that. Or maybe you have this intention at the beginning that you're going to just sort of like, as different things, you notice different things, you shift your attention and try to notice each one with concentration, with clarity, with equanimity. So you're more like a bee pollinating a flower, as Shinzen would say. You're kind of going in, then there's the new thing, and you're going in, and then there's the new thing. And that's more of that still builds up the same skills. What it doesn't build is the same sustained concentration, but it's still a valuable practice. So you can kind of explore each and see where they leave you and how you feel afterwards. But they're both legit ways to proceed. Nice. Happy birthday, Brooke. All right, guys. That's it for me. Tired. I got to go to a meeting. I hope you enjoyed that. I'll be back on Sunday. I think I'm doing 10% Happier on Friday. And I might be hosting 10% Happier next week because Dan's going to take a day off. So grateful for you guys. Grateful for Andrew, for Milen, for Lily, my folks who helped make this happen. Adios.